Like I said, I felt a little guilty at first, and then I got over it quickly, but then I felt the judgment from other people. I was afraid to tell other people because I was afraid they were going to say it about me.
See, I wasn't afraid of what somebody else would think of me. I was worried about how they were going to treat Joel. Then that's when I really became even more overprotective, because it was like I didn't want him telling my mother, because I thought my mother is a very judgmental person, and I thought for sure she would totally have ousted him. And she didn't at all. She's 78, and that's the woman that shocked me.
Yeah. Oh, my dad was the same way. He was very homophobic. We were shaking our boots when we went to tell them.
Right.
And first thing he said was, well, have you taken him for counseling? Like, we're going to change him. But as we talked about it, by the end of that day, he was starting to change. And then we gave him Mel White's book, Stranger at the Gate, which is about a minister who was married with 2 children and knew he was gay from the time he was a teenager, but he struggled with it for years and years and years, and finally divorced and has a partner.
A ghostwriter for Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell.
Yeah. Anyway, my dad read that book, and it was just like he flipped a switch. Now he understood it, and so.
I was really proud of him too. He sat down and he wrote a letter. There are 7 of us in my family, and he wrote a letter to everybody on my side of the family and to my husband's side, and mailed it out, and shared with why he didn't like going to family functions and different things, because people would always say, when are you going to get a girlfriend? When are you going to settle down? Yeah. And it always made him very uncomfortable. And so he sat down and explained why he didn't want to partake and who he was, and the ball became in their court. And I have to say, out of everybody, there was only 2 that were not receptive.
Well, that's really good.
And again, once you know somebody, it becomes much easier to accept them because you see all the good parts of them, and now you're trying to reconcile this one little thing with all of these other good things, and you realize that doesn't matter so much when all this other stuff is there. So I think it's better for the community as a whole when people can come out and be honest.
What do you? I have worked in Saginaw Public School, elementary as well as high school. Did you get any help at all from social workers, sociologists in the school?
Yeah, when Ken was in junior high and he had the boys throwing rocks at his head, we went to the social worker there who was just wonderful with him. But he wasn't out at that point. They were calling him gay. They perceived him as different, but he wasn't out at that point. There isn't a social worker in our schools that's supposed to treat the general ed students, only special ed students. But she's my friend, and so when he was having some difficulties, he went to her. But
as a community, what do you think that we can do, like as parents, to make it safer for people? What do you think? What's the step that someone, because you guys said it was always a concern about safety. What is something that we could do or talk about that would not ensure, but help promote it?
See, safety is kind of a broad range. We knew a young man that was in his senior year at a parochial school, had a full ride scholarship at Central Michigan University. The school found out that he was gay and expelled him. See, now that to me is safety, because this kid's whole life now he was watching it go down the drain, because if you don't graduate from high school, you obviously can't go to college. So now we have to try to get him into high school, and most public schools will not accept a transfer student in their senior year because there's too many prerequisites for them to pick up in less than 1 year. Well, I knew the principal, so I made some phone calls, and we got him in, and he graduated, and he's now at Central. But I don't know how you protect those kind of kids. I mean, it's teaching people to accept people for who they are.
right.
He was.
He had a boyfriend, and
Yeah.
I think he told some of his friends that his friends were okay with it, but not the administration.
Maybe it slept and
I
Yeah.
think so.
It gets difficult when you're watching all of your peers have relationships and enjoying their life in high school, and you can't. So then you start acting on those kind of impulses, and then it gets. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think what you can do though is speak up when you hear